Y'all are probably looking at your screen and wondering to yourself, what in the world am I looking at? Well, in case you were unaware, and I'm not even going to say living under a rock because I wouldn't fault you if you did not know, because I wouldn't have known if someone didn't post this in the Discord. Apparently, in Disneyland, and not the one here in the States in California, this one was the Disneyland in Shanghai. There was a fight that broke out in the park at one of the locations inside of the park. 'Cause, Disney has many parks within a park. And apparently there was an issue with the line, as in somebody or somebodies were trying to cut in front of someone else in the line. One thing led to another. Words were exchanged, and then hands were exchanged as well. And the worst thing about it is that minors, as in children, ended up getting caught in the middle of their parents' petty disagreements. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do now is read this article coming from Men's Journal to see and get more information about what went down over there. And then I'm gonna talk about the hypocrisy of it all. If the original Disneyland is the happiest place on earth, Disneyland Shanghai might be vying for the pettiest place on earth tagline. As the New York Post reports, the family-friendly theme park turned into the site of a vicious brawl between two couples, one of whom had a young child, all of which was caught on video, which, by the way, I can't post the video on here because of obvious reasons, but what you see on your screen, that's actually screenshots from the fight itself. According to witnesses, the animosity between the two groups seemed to begin when one couple wandered into the shot while the other was attempting to take a photo of themselves. But quiet seething turned into shocking violence when one couple claimed the other attempted to cut in front of them in line. So it's one of those things of it's two sides to every story. One is claiming that someone walked in the middle of their picture, and the other one is claiming that someone got in front of someone. So the truth is somewhere in the middle of those two things. With dozens of onlookers, including small children, watching, one of the men, decked out in some sort of character hat, while his female companion wore a bunny hat, began pushing the other man. All that shoving eventually led to the original pushee throwing an elbow to the face of the original attacker. At that point, the female half of the hat-wearing duo jumped in the middle of the two men and began kicking and grabbing at the face of the other man. While the men continued locked in their tussle, the woman, without losing her hat, instead turned her attention back to the second female and appeared to shove the couple's young child, who was on the woman's hip, in the face. Now, that's crazy right there. Just reading that, it's like that fight was just all over the place. I'm surprised it didn't kick up dust like it would if this was an episode of the Looney Tunes. But the fact that she got so mad that she ended up pushing the child. Now, for all intents and purposes, she probably didn't even mean to push the child, because the thing is, when you're in the heat of the moment, anything that is moving becomes a target for you, especially if you're in the middle of everything. But still, at the same time, they definitely probably going to get her on the fact that she pushed a child while she was on the woman's hip. It says the unexpected attack caused the mom to begin screaming and drop to the ground with her child, while the woman in the hat went back to try and get in on the fight between the two men, which soon turned into a chokehold that took the original victim down. Eventually, two women and a man, presumably unrelated to either couple, attempted to break up the fight. Disneyland staffers eventually put an end to the event, which somewhat ironically went down outside the park's Crazy Animal City ride. While the New York Post reports that only minor injuries are reported, both couples could be facing a lifetime ban from ever visiting the park under its rules against engaging in any violence. And that is the entire article right there. And the irony of it all is that New York Post is like the only place I can think of that has the actual full video of the fight. I think it's about a little over 2 minutes long. So like I said, I can't show it on here, but if you want to watch it, it's on New York Post YouTube channel, because I don't even think they wrote an article about it. Like when I tried to find an article for it, I don't think they had an article. It just went straight to their YouTube channel where the video is at, which is, it's, as far as I know, it's still up. But But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because even though this happened in Shanghai, China, it didn't happen here. If this was involving a black family, it would have made its rounds. As a matter of fact, it did. If y'all remember back in, I want to say 2023, there was an incident that happened at Disneyland in California where a fight broke out. And I think it was about, or maybe similar to the situation that was going on here. I can't remember all the details, but I remember, and a fight had broke out between multiple black people, not all related to each other. And that story and video was everywhere. Everybody was talking about it, talking about how you can't take black people nowhere. They can't even go to Disneyland. They're so uncivilized. Why, the usual suspects saying, why can't you just leave them in their cages? And the whole spiel that they love to say when it comes to black people and being out in public and having some decency and decorum. Yet they're very quiet when it comes to this story right here. As a matter of fact, mainstream media itself is very quiet about this. Yes, granted, this didn't happen in the States and you can use that as an excuse, but the fact of the matter is that it still has the word Disney attached to it. It's only a handful of articles at the time of me recording this and one YouTube channel, being the New York Post, that actually talked about this. And when I say a handful, I'm talking about maybe 4 tops of places that actually spoke about this event. Now, of course, I'm sure many publications that are based out of Shanghai are definitely talking about it because that happened locally. But when it came to that incident that I just spoke about, you couldn't miss it. It was everywhere. Even people who I like to call the melanated co-colonizing cohorts couldn't wait to get their hands on it and say how you can't take black people nowhere. So to all of those that had something to say about that a couple years ago, what do you have to say about this? As a matter of fact, what's very interesting is when I was looking through the comments of the New York Post video of this, you had people down there saying, oh, thank God it's not, I thought it was going to be about black people. They literally thought it was going to be about black people, even though they looked at the title of it and saw that this happened in Shanghai, where there's like no black people there unless they're visiting or they moved there from another country there for work or whatever the case may be. But it had to be people who was from there. I saw some comments saying something to the fact, oh, I'm glad that, for once we can see something about the so-called demure group, if you know what I mean. Because you never really hear stories about them engaging in this type of activity, even though I'm almost certain there are plenty out there. It's just that this one got recorded, and look at where it happened at Disneyland in Shanghai. So I just wanted to point that out. That was one of my main reasons for making that video, because I remember the comments people made about those black families that got into that incident at Disneyland a couple years ago. I will never forget it. I said, why? Because the thing is, every time something happens with a group of black people and it's like gets into the hands of the usual suspects, I already say in my mind how they're going to use this story to try to throw blanket statements on the entire black collective. And usually I'm right 9 times out of 10. I'm almost waiting to see what they're going to say. And it's usually the same song and dance. That's why they're so predictable in their talking points. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.